Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just reiterate what we talked about privately for this committee, that now we have reports that there may be short-selling runs on WAMU and Wachovia, which could jeopardize further big retail banks. And with press reports now that FDIC may have inadequate resources, my hoping is the leadership, which only really has one stimulus package bullet to shoot, doesn't miss this one. We talked, and you'll be taking that up with your team, and I hope that that does happen. If on this subject, if we let the marketplace fully rule, looking at my wife and I's TV habits, then we would have ESPN 1 through 50 and E Channel 51 through 100 and call it a day. And I might not want to have the marketplace offer just that, because of the vital role that local access plays in democracy. And even though there are 9.2 people watching at some point, it's the 9.2 people that are watching the local jurisdiction talk about paving over their house. And so this is a vital service, I think, that's provided. With regard to proposals then to take local access off of the basic channel selection and move them into what I would regard as digital Siberia, over and on demand, and not just easily found on demand, buried deep within the on demand. Monica, in your testimony, you said, and I quote this, "We believe that placing PEG channels on any tier other than the basic service tier may be a violation of the statute, which requires PEG access probing to be placed on the basic service tier." And what they will say is, hey man, it is on the basic service tier because you don't have to pay for it. You just can't find it. And then you say, subjecting consumers to additional burdens to watch PEG channels defeats the purpose of the basic service tier, which sounds to me like the commission would then say, exiling PEG to on demand and deep within it is a violation of the statute, in your view. We believe it is important to ensure consumers are able to get access equally to all channels belonging to the basic service, and this should be the case regardless of what type of system the channels are being carried on, meaning whether it's digital or analog. And so my question is this: what are your plans to implement your testimony from the commission to make sure that AT&T is forced to bring PEG back to the basic, so that they have a channel somewhere between 1 and 100 on the basic service tier and are not exiled to on demand?
First, I think it's important to clarify that I'm speaking as chief of the Media Bureau at the FCC.
Right.
I cannot speak on behalf of the commissioners, but I would be anxious to place this issue in front of the commissioners for them to decide with our view that this would be a violation of the statute. But what we would need is to have a specific and formal complaint filed in front of us. We would need something to act on, and then we would look at what was filed and look at the law, look at the statute, and give our recommendation.
So does Michael or Barbara have standing to put that complaint before you?
I would think so.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So then I assume you'll get that late this afternoon. And then you would put this then before the commission. And how would this then move forward? How would you obviously you haven't formally prepared this, but you'd put before the commission that a ruling of exiling local access to on-demand, in our view, is a violation of the statute, and then there would be a rulemaking procedure that would go forward?
It may be an enforcement proceeding.
Uh-huh.
It would depend on whether there's what exactly was filed in front of us. If there's a petition for declaratory ruling, it may be a ruling by the commission. I mean, if they chose to act on it. If there was a formal complaint, then you move through an enforcement proceeding.
Right. And generally, enforcement proceeding would then require that AT&T is reversing its decision and bringing local access back to the basic channel mix. By when? In a month? In a year? How long, in general, are enforcement proceedings take to put into place?
I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head, but I will definitely get back to you. I mean, in part, that would depend on how quickly we were able to move this forward to the commission and how quickly the commission would vote on an item. But I'll find out for you how quickly, typically, a company would be required to come into compliance if the commission determined that they were in violation.
One other question, which is, say you're a random congressman representing the northern suburbs of Chicago and planning on a nice evening, Saturday evening at home, and instead Hurricane Ike shows up from its journey through the Gulf. And so we have flooding throughout Des Plaines, Mount Prospect, and Glenview. Everything is shut down, all roads, emergency services are tasked out the yin-yang, and no ability to get that information via now the AT&T provider, because Mount Prospect showed me the complicated procedure it now takes to put out information on where the flood is, who's wiped out. We had a couple of fires. I spent most of Saturday night loading sandbags with a couple of hundred Navy recruits. And yet we're having now difficulty getting the emergency information. Have you engaged on that issue as well? Because if we exile this all to digital Siberia, especially for seniors who are suddenly being flooded out of their homes, they can't even find the channel to get the village information.
Sure. The public safety, there are absolutely public safety implications.
Right. Is that a separate issue in your mind, or is that the same issue as just digital democracy and making sure that folks can find the channel?
I'd have to think about it. I think, the statute is pretty clear in its language.
Do you have higher or separate standards with regard to conveying emergency information?
I think that always influences commission decisions, absolutely.
Right.
It's something that they take into account.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.